Hey everybody, welcome back to the GeekySteveD show. I'm your host, GeekySteveD. As always, my real name is Stephen Diggs Jr. You can find me on Twitter or on Amazon. I sell books. If anyone out there wants to help support this channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Last week I left off saying that I was able to check off a bucket list over the coming weekend, and I did. I went to the New Japan Pro Wrestling Capital Collision show in Washington, D.C. And it was amazing. It was phenomenal. And it definitely really couldn't have been much better unless there was more singles matches, but it's New Japan. This American tour isn't really meant to be one-on-one matches for the most part. Yeah, at least like world title matches. You know, the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, which I think that's what it's called now. It's crazy. They merged two belts. They merged the Intercontinental Championship with the World Championship. So now it's got a new name officially. I think it's the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. So now it changed the lineage. Now Sonata is now the seventh holder. He's the seventh person in the lineage, which it sucks because now that means that the original lineage of the IWGP belt is no longer mentioned. So before this merging of the belts, every time there was a title defense, they would show a video of the lineage of from the first champion to the last champion, and or the current champion, I guess is what I should say. And they don't do that now because, well, they do that with the new belt, but it doesn't have the old stuff. So, you're not going to go see Antonio Inoki in there, or you're not going to go see Vader in there, or you're not going to go see, any of the older guys, even guys in the 90s, Masahiro Chono, a personal fan favorite of mine, because technically they didn't hold this belt. I miss that. I wish WB could do it, but they can't do it because they've had 50 different versions of title reigns, and it would be really convoluted. I don't know how you would do that. I actually wish you could do that, but you can't. And the title changed a lot for a long time in WWE too, so you have massive amounts of title reigns. So that's kind of what made New Japan even more special with it, because there's no one else that can really do it. And it be a prestigious wrestling organization. And now they had to reboot it, which is just kind of a shame. And Sonata was in a tag match. It was him and Kanemaru versus Naito and Takahashi, which it was a great match. I mean, up and down, this was probably one of the best cards, like best wrestling that I've seen at any show. I've been to WrestleMania. I went to WrestleMania 29. I went to all kinds of Raws, SmackDowns. I went to the first ever Dynamite. I went to the first ever Rampage. I've been to lots of indie shows, been to a lot of ROH shows. Those actually became a slog because they were filming 3 or 4 weeks of TV in one night. So it was a lot. It was just, even if you saw good matches, which you did, especially the main event, whatever night it was, and then the main event of the actual ending was always good. But, it's kind of hard to be up and want to really see all this great wrestling because you've been there for a long time, and it was just one thing after another. New Japan, the show was just kind of an in and out. It was started at 7, ended about 10:15, I believe, from what I remember. And it was just nothing but matches. You had some segments. Technically, you had a couple things on the video screen. You had Hikuleo challenge, offer to challenge for the, I believe that was for the Zack Sabre Jr.'s TV championship. You had a couple other little video packages. You had video packages to introduce some of the more key matches. And then the Juice Robinson match against Fred Rosser, who, if you don't know, that's Darren Young from WWE, and you would not know that it's Darren Young from WWE. He is completely transformed, and this has rejuvenated him. And sometimes I always feel that some wrestlers are just better for different styles and different organizations. They're just not, there are guys in AEW that might actually do better in WWE, and there are guys in WWE that might do better in New Japan, or they might do better on the indies. Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, for instance, has been doing that for the last couple years, and, it's worked out great for him. So it's great to see a guy be able to hone his craft and do it a different way. And now he was the New Japan Strong Champion until recently. And he was attacked by Juice Robinson before their match, and Robinson just beat the crap out of him. They basically set up the new Bullet Club because Juice is working on making a new Bullet Club with David Finlay. And so you're starting to see kind of a new wave of the Bullet Club, because Jay White just left, even though technically he's with Juice in the Bullet Club Gold, which I don't know. It's a little confusing, but you're starting to see kind of a new Bullet Club form. And Clark Connors, I believe, joined it that night. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of things going on, and the wrestling was just absolutely solid up and down the card. There's no matches that are, bad wrestling. There's no guys who are super green or have never been able to learn how to wrestle, or and not every match was just a clean finish. There was a lot of, there was some ref bumps in some matches. The Eddie Edwards match had some ref bumps, which actually kind of worked out. That was great, and that made it really fun. There was kind of a little bit of something for everyone. So you had some strong style stuff. I mean, Tomohiro Ishii fought El Desperado, who's putting on weight. I think he's trying to become a heavyweight. I don't follow New Japan every week. I kind of just follow a lot of the kind of vague things that are going on, but this is actually making me want to go back in to the weeds and learn everything again, because Desperado was gaining muscle mass and gaining that, and when I mean muscle mass, it's not like he's going to look like Brian Cage. He's got that. If you ever go back and look at all the 90s All Japan wrestlers and a lot of the 90s New Japan wrestlers, they have this like bulk. They're bulky. That's, I think, the way to explain it. Hardcore Holly here. If you think of what Hardcore Holly looked like when he was in WB, that's kind of what the New Japan guys, a lot of the heavyweights look like. A little bulkier, more muscle. I believe that is so that when they take the bumps and they take the heavy hitting, which there was a lot of heavy hitting. I mean, he fought Ishii, so, you expect that. That you have cushion. You have cushion, and, your body can absorb the blows. And not just blows, just the bumps. I mean, crazy suplexes and, all the other weird things that guys like Ishii do, just throw people around the ring. And so you got to see a lot of that. So there's a lot of changing of the guard, as evident in the final match, because the final match was the Motor City Machine Guns versus Aussie Open versus Okada and Tanahashi. Teamed up. Okada said, I'm going to go work as a tag guy right now, because he just lost to Sonata. He lost the IWGP World Belt to him just about 2 weeks ago or so now. And he's going to go do a tag team thing. And I think this is kind of Tanahashi's last run at something big. He's going to be around for a while. Hiroshi Tenzan was around for a very long time, or Satoshi Kojima was around for a very long time. Great Muta just retired. They hang on, but they work their way down the card, and then they do lower significant things on the card, but people still want to see him. Tanahashi was not the same guy at this show. However, it now has came out that I believe he broke a rib then, which might explain some of it, because Tanahashi just wasn't very agile. He did the sling blade, and he barely got around. I think he did a crossbody or something similar to that at one point, and he barely got up. But if he was working with a broken rib, no wonder. I can see that. And I could even see one of those moves being the thing that caused it, because New Japan's rings are always pretty hard, and I'm thinking that their American ring was really hard too. They really kind of make New Japan Strong an American division of the actual New Japan, because technically this show was a combined New Japan and New Japan Strong show. It was a mix. So you had a lot of the New Japan Strong guys, which the best match of the night was a match that was actually between a New Japan Strong guy, which was Filthy Tom Lawler, and Zack Sabre Jr. from New Japan. They beat the crap out of each other at first. Sabre and Lawler were exchanging chops, and then Lawler just hit him with the hardest chop in the world, and Sabre went down immediately. And Joe, who was with me, actually said it looked like that scene in Doctor Strange when he hit him so hard his soul popped out of his body. I mean, it was, and the crowd gasped and then like cheered because it was just wow. And then they just went into straight submission fighting, just submissions and lots of pinfalls, a lot of close falls. Filthy Tom Lawler had a tooth get knocked out and then go through his cheek. It is online. There's just a hole in his cheek. It looks like he got one of those like dimple piercings, but it's not. It was a tooth that came through his cheek. Phenomenal match. I would check that match out. Match of the night without a doubt. But like I said, the whole show, there was no bad matches. It was, I believe, only a $20 pay-per-view. You could get it on, I believe it was on Fight TV. Get it. I mean, it's worth it. It had all the stars you'd want to see in America, except for Minoru Suzuki. That's the one guy that I mentioned before I want to see. But it had Nakano and Tanahashi. They didn't do a lot, and I wonder if that's just Okada is trying to slow him down right now too. Maybe he's injured. A lot of these guys work injured in Japan, and maybe that's part of it. Sonata looked like a world champion. He looked like a young Antonio Inoki. The way his hair was. He kind of dropped all the weird stuff that he used to wear on his pants and trunks and stuff. He kind of just he looked like a dignified world champion. And he's got years ahead of him, this is what's going to be cool is what's he going to be like in 5 years? He obviously hasn't headlined Wrestle Kingdom yet. Who's going to be the opponent there? Because you got to assume he's going to keep the belt till then. New Japan doesn't do a lot of very quick championship title changes unless there's an injury or there's a real reason for it, not even storyline reason. There's just a real legitimate reason for it. And so I think the future's bright with both New Japan and New Japan Strong. I actually want to start watching the New Japan Strong show, which is on New Japan World, their streaming service. I think that's a great it's a great show. It's an in and out show. It's I believe about an hour. So you have an hour of shows, and then you're done. Because the one problem is we're starting to see too much wrestling. There's too much wrestling going on. Because just look right now, AEW is just about to announce their new AEW Collision show on Saturday nights from 8 to 10. Another 2-hour show. So now they have 5 hours, plus Rampage sometimes is longer, plus they do some specials on TNT, and then they do pay-per-views. So just think about that. They now have 5+ hours a week. That's not including All Access, the behind the scenes reality show. I believe that's an hour. So 6+ hours, 5+ hours of wrestling. WB obviously has 3, 2, and 1, so they are already at 6. They still have main event, and they have some other shows. They have NXT, if you include that as part of the main roster. And then that's not including Impact every Thursday. And I know I'm missing a lot of shows. MLW is every week. That's an hour. And then you got all the streaming shows every week. And you got all of the shows that are on Fight TV Plus. GCW is on Fight TV Plus, and they almost do one show a weekend. They're, I would say, the third largest company, about the third largest company, I'd say, in the U.S. alone. So especially if you go by the amount of shows they run, and probably even by revenue. I don't think MLW or Impact are as big as GCW, maybe, because they don't look as big when you turn and look at their production values and things. But I have a feeling that they make a lot more money on the show and the merch than Impact, who only runs like 2 or 3 times a month, because they kind of do bulk TV runs, which would have their issues, like I said, with the ROH shows that I went to back in the day. And then they have a pay-per-view, which had a pay-per-view over the weekend, which they announced with New Japan. They're going to have a joint show again in August in the ECW arena, the 2300 arena. And I believe that's on a Sunday, and the Saturday before is a New Japan Junior Heavyweight Exhibition Festival is what they're calling it. They're calling it a festival. So anybody wants to go see some great junior heavyweight stuff, which there was a lot on the Capital Collision show, there was a great opening 8-man. It was big. It was a large match with a lot of people. Leo Rush was in it. Speedball Mike Bailey, who's I think just ridiculous, and like the way he looks with the mullet, he does like karate stuff. It's like the Karate Kid if he was a wrestler with a lot of modern luchador stuff. And you had a bunch of guys from New Japan Strong that I've never really seen before. That was cool. That was a very well done match, and I think that you'll probably see some of those guys at that junior heavyweight showcase. And honestly, that's might be a really good night of wrestling. There might be some CML guys too. New Japan does have a working relationship with CMLL, so there's a good chance that we might end up seeing some CMLL guys. So we might get to see some Impact guys. This might be kind of a crossover and kind of a teaser for the Super J Cup and other things that are happening in New Japan. So, this would be a great way to see a lot of guys that you haven't seen before, whether you watch it on pay-per-view or you go to the event, which I would love for everyone to go to the event, because the DC show, the crowd wasn't very full. I had a guy that I basically became friends with during that show who was telling me he went to the show before and it was really full. This one, the floor with the 3 sides of the ring were covered with fans, and then the ramp was on the other side. It was like a stage with stairs, which always seems dangerous to have stairs, all those stairs right beside the ring, but they didn't do spots over there. But still, even just walking down it, it always seems, because you got to walk down one set and then turn and go down another set. But anyways, the floor was pretty full. But once you got to the first level, and then the second level, there wasn't really that many people. There's a lot of empty spaces. If you go on New Japan's YouTube channel, you can see they have some clips on there, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about, which is unfortunate. But, law of diminishing returns when you have multiple shows over and over again every year. Second time they were in DC at least. It might have been in it before, but I believe this is the second Capital Collision. And I don't know about the show from Philadelphia last night. I'm recording this on Monday. So that's a little smaller venue. It was at the ECW Arena. So it's not really an arena. It's basically, it's a bingo hall. It's a convention center style thing. It's just a big building where you can put whatever you want kind of in the center, and there's maybe you can move some bleachers in, but it's not an arena. They used to have bingo there. I think they still have craft shows and other kind of weird events. I think you can even rent it out for a wedding. So I don't know. That's kind of a weird place, but that's a holy grail item. That's one of my only holy grails left that I want to do. I want to go to there. So that's something that's on my bucket list, my ever slowly dwindling bucket list for wrestling. So before the wrestling show, Joe and I drove down to Hunt Valley, Maryland, or drove across to Hunt Valley, Maryland, across Maryland, I guess, technically. And we went to Monster Mania, which was, I think it's called Monster Mania Con, technically. So Monster Mania Con is a horror movie convention. I love horror movie conventions and just horror movies and things like that. So we figured we can go spend the day there and then drive down to DC in the evening and go to the wrestling show. So Monster Mania Con was in this Marriott that was 2 floors, like one ground floor and then a basement. Instead of being like, a high-rise hotel, it was like this old 80s style hotel. It was huge. The bottom side of it was just these big ballrooms and then hallways, and it was just full of vendors. And then a couple of the ballrooms upstairs and downstairs had celebrities. William Shatner was there. Christina Ricci was there. Robert Patrick, the T-1000, was there. Wendy Peppercorn from The Sandlot and Planet Terror and a million other things I'm not thinking of off the top of my head or was there. And there was people from The Walking Dead. There was a lot of other just random stories. Kane Hodder was there from Friday the 13th. Jason was there. Freaking Jason was there. So, it was really cool. You get the cool thing is if you like buying stuff, you can walk around and buy there's a lot of crafts, horror movie crafts. People make things, 3D print things. You can, there used to be a lot of movies at these places, and I love going to see the movies. There isn't as many as there used to be because of streaming and stuff, but I wish there was more. I wish there was like VHS collectors, that VHS places that set up there. Severn Films was there. So they had their movies there. There was like one or two like independent places that had their own films there. And, it's kind of a fun time. There's conventions for everything. And I always kind of suggest if you like going to conventions and you want to be around like-minded people, go to a convention for whatever you like. So I've been to horror movie conventions. I've been to video game conventions. I've been to lots of anime conventions. I've been to pop culture, kind of more general pop culture conventions. Anything that you're into, go to them because the vendors are related to that thing. Everybody's there for a reason. You could literally just start conversations if you want with people. Everybody's got, similar ideas. They may not be similar as people in overall, but which honestly does make the world great. But you got similar interest about a lot of things, and you can talk to people and they'll give you suggestions or recommendations, or you might find out something. So a lot of people from Terrifier were there, and holy crap, were they busy with people. And you expect William Shatner, Christina Ricci to have a line, and they did, obviously, but the Terrifier people had their own room. It was, the creator and a lot of the actors from it, and it was just constant. They had lines and people, and there were so many people dressed up as Terrifier. So, the clown or merchandise. I mean, there is, or like someone did a Terrifier Deadpool, for instance. So there's a lot at that. So Terrifier is like the big thing right now, at least in that area. So because when I go to a horror movie convention here in Pittsburgh, it's zombie stuff. There's still other stuff, obviously, but the zombie stuff is what blows up here because it's the capital of the world for zombies. I mean, we have zombie specific conventions. I think one of them is actually coming up in just a few months, so there's a lot more zombie specific stuff here because of that. But I mean, Terrifier's been huge. I mean, it's made a ton of money, wasn't made for a lot. It's a great inspiration story for anyone who's actually looking to make a movie or even do something kind of just low budget in general. You're going to write a book, you're going to make a video game, you're going to do something, you're going to make some music. You don't have to have this big budget behind it. You could do it, and if it can find an audience. And now, look, they've made multiple sequels. Well, they made one sequel. I think they're making another one soon, and they're getting to go to conventions. They're selling merch. I mean, there's a whole... This will probably be a series of films. Horror movies never end with just one film, usually. Jordan Peele hasn't made sequels yet, technically. So there's that. But Freddy, Jason, something that has a character, like there's a person that's a character, it's a demon, a monster, supernatural force. They almost, or, a vampire. We talked about vampires last time. They usually have multiple sequels. So Terrifier is going to have multiple sequels. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to 5 or 6, just because that's kind of the name of the game. They just announced the new Critters cartoon. Not Critters, Gremlins. New Gremlins cartoon. I want more Critters stuff. I think Critters' new binge, by the way, is very underrated. It's so low budget and so ridiculous. I just think it's fun, and it's just about having fun. But anyways, I think that, you're still seeing Gremlin stuff come out. And there really hasn't even been a Gremlins thing in 30 years. So it's interesting. I think that you will see more Terrifier stuff. You will see probably more other stuff in general. And, Kane Hodder goes to a lot of these conventions. I don't know who they've announced for the next convention. I believe Monster Mania Con runs like 4 conventions a year. There's another one in Hunt Valley in October. I believe they run one in Jersey, and they run one in Oaks, Pennsylvania as well. So check them out. Kind of look at the list of what is gonna what celebrities and stuff are gonna be there, because that's kind of the big thing, is you can kind of really see what celebrities, because they have panels too, so you can go get their autograph and then go sit on a panel like a Q&A. And sometimes it might be based off of like a movie, so you have like a couple people from the movie, or it might just be one person. William Shatner obviously was there by himself. There was no other Star Trek people there, so it was just a William Shatner panel. So the cool thing is you could ask him like the Twilight Zone, because I'm sure a lot of times the stuff is Star Trek related, and then maybe tech war. But then you could ask him about like the Twilight Zone or some of that stuff. Like he did a lot of like horror movies and things like that, like back in the day. And William Shatner is announced for the next Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh in August. So anyone in this area can go see him here in just a few months too. And I actually saw him zooming by pretty high speed in a rascal, like he was in a race. There was a rascal race. Sounds like a new movie. And he was just flying by, and Joe goes, "Hello, Mr. Shatner," and he just zooming by, "Hello," and then was just driving, just all nonchalant. And I don't know, he had somewhere to be. Even it was only 2 floors, the place was massive. It was very widespread, and bottom floor and top floor, and it got really crowded. Saturdays are the worst for any convention. It's always the busiest on convention Saturdays. So there was a lot of people. The parking was crazy, and then it rained like monsoon. Like it's Shawshank Redemption getting out of the pipe at the near the end of the movie, where you can't see in front of you. And so trying to make sure you didn't get caught in the rain was lovely. But it was great. Everything there. It's always fun to kind of do this stuff, and like the more you look back, you're like, okay, I had fun. I kind of wish there was more to eat around there. I guess there is down the road, but not right beside it or anything like that. Sometimes with conventions, there's a lot of restaurants like right beside it. They pick that stuff on purpose. But the Marriott was an interesting just building. I just wish there was a little more signage to just know where to go. That's the one, little critique I would say, is where, the sign in, we pre-registered for our tickets, but the sign in to know where to go was a little confusing. And I've been to, I don't know, 30 conventions, something like that. I've been to, I don't know. I mean, I could sit here and count them, but I've probably been to like 30 conventions over the years since 2002. So, maybe a little more organization at it might be nice. But it was a great time. And if you're looking for celebrities, if you want to get to a certain picture or something like that, if you have something to sell, I think that, it's a dedicated audience. So if you have a movie, or if you have a comic, horror movie comic book, or you could probably make this work. I don't know how much those tables cost, but I think that that's something that is easily something that you could do. And so Saturday was completely busy. I also went to the Waffle House for the first time ever in my life. I went to a Waffle House, and I got a Waffle House story out of it, of course. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. We're driving on the way back to Joe's house, and we're stopped at this Waffle House, and we're eating, we both got breakfast. So we're eating breakfast, and everybody's gone. There's no other customers. And the waitress walks up to us, hands us the check, and goes, "I got to step outside for a few minutes. If you need anything, I'll be back in about 5 minutes." No one was left in the building. Nobody. Not even the chef. There was nobody in the building. Because I was kind of looking out the other end, like not to the main counter. I was like, "Joe, there's just nobody back there, right?" "Yeah, no." It's like, they just left us here, like by ourselves. Waffle House. Only in the Waffle House. Only in the Waffle House would that happen, everybody. But you know what? It was great. It was funny. And, it's Waffle House. So I got a Waffle House story out of it, and I've never been to Waffle House. So another, I guess, a bucket list. Let's just say that going to the Waffle House was a bucket list item. So there, check. So I don't know. Saturday was great. And it was a fun day. It's always a fun day to hang out with Joe, but it's always just a great day when you get to go to just things you like. Conventions, got to go to the wrestling show, obviously, and just get to do things, and I guess now it's great to be able to do things. We couldn't do that a couple years ago, and now we can. And it's great because a lot of stuff's happening right now. There's a lot of conventions. There's a lot of shows. There's a lot of bands coming back and performing for the first time. And some of them I feel haven't performed in 20 or 30 years. I mean, or at least not on a national stage. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I say go do it. Enjoy yourself because you never know what's going to happen around the corner. And, we never would have thought 2020 would have been 2020. So that's what I mean, So I say get out, enjoy yourself. And that right now I say you go out and enjoy yourself. Well, I sign off and check me out at GeekySteveD pretty much anywhere. And I will catch you guys next time. See you later.